Well, this lot don't think it's a coup. They think they've won victory. You can see there's plenty of fireworks going off in the background here. Ever since that ultimatum was given by the army, and there's no other way of looking at it, the army have laid down a warning and a threat, if you like, to President Morsi that he has to cooperate with the opposition, that he has to speak to these people or they will take action. Well, ever since that announcement was made, tens of thousands of people have been streaming here outside the presidential palace. And they feel like they've won this evening. Of course, that's not the whole picture. We're still waiting to hear from the Muslim Brotherhood, from President Morsi's supporters, as to what action they're going to take. One TV channel which supports the president said they should get on the streets to try and counteract all of this.
And Quentin, does President Morsi, does the Muslim Brotherhood actually have much room for manoeuvre at the moment, politically or in any other sense?
Well, it's worth remembering that he is still the president of the country, and of course that he was democratically elected. President Morsi and his supporters would say all of this is not democracy, this is mob rule. He's been in power a year. And part of the problem, according to these protesters, is that he just hasn't carried the entire country with him. That he's been representing the Muslim Brotherhood rather than representing Egypt. It's also worth bearing in mind that President Morsi is the supreme commander of the military. Well, that command has been seriously weakened today by the army, in effect, taking their own command and ordering the president to speak to these people.
And I suppose, Quentin, really there's no love lost between the army and President Morsi. Obviously, he got rid of, ordered him to retire, the former head of the army, Field Marshal Tantawi, last August. So there is some lingering resentment over that, I imagine.
Indeed, there is a great deal of resentment over that. But the reason that the army say they've intervened is because of this scene, which they described as unprecedented. Because it isn't just happening here in Cairo. There have been protests all across Egypt. Millions of people have taken to the street because they've been dissatisfied, not just with President Morsi's rule, but because he hasn't been able to deliver security, because he hasn't been able to improve the economy, he hasn't been able to guarantee people's lifestyles here in Egypt. So it's because of these unprecedented scenes, the military insisted that they had no alternative but to intervene. Now the question is this a counter-revolution? Is this a military coup? Well, we don't know, and we won't know until those 48 hours expire.
Well, yes, certainly at the moment it doesn't seem as if the revolution is over. Because of that ultimatum from the army, do you think that we're less likely to see violence tonight because people are waiting to see what happens? Obviously, last night the situation was very different.
It all really depends on the reaction of the Muslim Brotherhood, and we haven't had that yet. We've seen a great deal of violence in the past couple of days. 8 people killed yesterday in reaction to these anti-government protests. So it's likely that there will be more violence. The extent of that violence, though, depends on the government's reaction. But it seems like we're seeing a split within the organs of state here in Egypt. You have President Morsi, the elected head of government, who no longer has the full command and the full support of the military. And that kind of split clearly has risks associated with it. So while these protests here this evening have been largely peaceful, there's no guarantee that that will continue here in Cairo and throughout the rest of Egypt.